welcome to the channel. This is a big one. Before we start, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and comment down below what you want me to react to next. Also, go check out Lore of the Rings. I'm already subscribed. Amazing channel. Let's get into this. Gandalf vs. the Balrog explained. I don't know why it's taken me so long to watch this. Let's do it.
One of the most iconic characters in Middle-earth.
What,
Gandalf
Chad?
the Grey. One of the most iconic characters in Middle-earth. In the Fellowship of the Ring, he meets his match, a Balrog of...
If you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, there will be spoilers in this video, I guess I should say. So go and watch Lord of the Rings first.
Morgoth. This battle is legendary, and it is a memorable moment from the Lord of the Rings. There is more to this battle than meets the eye, and many questions arise from this event. In this video, an in-depth explanation of this battle shall be provided.
Oh, this is going to be good.
The encounter between Gandalf and the Balrog begins when the Fellowship flees from the Chamber of Mazarbul. Gandalf is trying to hold the door leading out from the chamber using spells to buy time for the Fellowship. The Balrog now approaches, and it can perceive Gandalf and his spells. The Balrog uses a counterspell, and the door starts to open. Gandalf has to use a word of command to hold the Balrog's spells in check, but it proves to be too much of a strain on the door. The door is broken in many pieces, and the ceiling even falls to the ground. The Balrog were thus hit by the ceiling, but survives without getting injured. Gandalf is shocked by this counterspell, and he can perceive that his power is matched. He flies down the stairs and lands on the ground due to this immense power. Gandalf now tells us that he was almost broken and that he is weary. The Fellowship now heads for the eastern gate of Moria, hoping to escape. The confrontation between Gandalf and the Balrog continues once the Fellowship has reached the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
God, Balrogs
Gandalf
looks so cool.
recognizes that they are indeed facing a Balrog of Morgoth. Legolas is terrified, and Gimli buries his eyes in his hands. The description that Tolkien gives us here is interesting. That it is indeed a dwarf and the elf that recognize this being is by no means an accident. The Balrog is the whole reason.
Wait, you didn't read it. The Valar Rakar. Tolkien's perspective on the Balrogs differed from earlier and later writings in the early works. There existed thousands of Balrogs, while in the later works only 7 existed. Damn, look at this one.
Means an accident. The Balrog is the whole reason that the dwarves had to leave Khazad-dûm, their most beloved hall of old. It is named Durin's Bane by the dwarves, for it killed Durin, the father and the king of the dwarves.
Khazad-dûm fell to the power of the Balrog in the 1980th year in the Third Age. Durin the Sixth was slain by the Balrog in 1981. It was Durin the Sixth, I believe, who uncovered it, right? In 1981, the dwarves flee from Khazad-dûm. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them. Look at this picture, man. That's so cool. I wonder, like, was it stuck under stone and, like, was it not alive the whole time? Like, I wonder how they awoke it, if that makes sense. I guess maybe light woke it up. I don't know. How did it get there as well? Like,
for the elves, the Balrog were fearsome enemies of old, slaying many elves in the First Age. The being itself is a symbol of the downfall of Khazad-dûm and the victories against the elves, and therefore it is no wonder why Gimli and Legolas are struck with horror. The Balrog now race towards the Fellowship, accompanied by orcs and trolls. Boromir blows the horn of Gondor, and all the enemies halt. Gandalf's strength was renewed, and he told his companions to cross the bridge of Khazad-dûm. Gandalf stood in the middle of the span, with a staff in his left hand and Glamdring in his right hand. The Balrog approached the bridge. Shadow reached out from its sides, and it raised a whip, but Gandalf stood firm. You cannot pass.
Just look at that image. This is genuinely one of the best moments in cinematic history, in my opinion. I love it. Every time I see it, you probably just saw me smile. Like, unbelievable.
The orcs now fell silent. They had not expected that anyone would dare to challenge the Balrog, whom they all feared. I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of honor. You cannot pass. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udon. Go back to the shadow. You cannot pass. The Balrog made no answer. The words that Gandalf utters here are very powerful.
You shall not pass. The legendary "you shall not pass" quote is only present in the movie adaptations. This change is probably implemented to make the words sound more powerful. Okay, interesting.
But to understand them, we must first understand what Gandalf and the Balrog are. Gandalf is much more than a wizard. He is an emissary, a Maya from the west. Gandalf was sent to Middle-earth from Valinor to aid the free peoples against Sauron's dominion, just like the 4 other wizards. Gandalf was born before time itself. To not overcomplicate the situation, we can just say that Gandalf is a half-god that served the creator of Middle-earth, Eru Ilúvatar.
That's a good way of putting it.
The Balrog were also born before time itself, and it was as well a Maya. However, instead of serving Eru Ilúvatar, it became corrupted and followed Morgoth, the Valar that corrupted different Maiar and made them an evil force of the world, rebelling against Eru Ilúvatar, the creator.
I love how Morgoth still has his hands in even the Lord of the Rings movies, if you think about it.
This considered, we can now understand Gandalf's motives, and thus why the Balrog is silenced after this exclamation. Gandalf has exposed the Balrog for what it really is. When Gandalf says he's the secret fire, wielder of the flame of honor, he might refer to the flame imperishable. The flame imperishable is the flame that Eru Ilúvatar used to create the world and its life. It is some kind of substance that provides creation in Tolkien's world. Gandalf explains that he serves this power. The flame of Udon, on the other hand, serves the dark fire. It is a minion of the corrupted and fallen Morgoth. The contrast between the two is enlightened by Gandalf. He states that he serves the one true power, whilst the Balrog has rejected its creator and has fallen to serving the great corrupter Morgoth, a being that pales in comparison to Eru Ilúvatar. Gandalf is portraying the greater authority, and the Balrog has no answer to this.
I love this
video. The Balrog
video.
finally steps onto the bridge, and the fire in it disappears. The darkness in it grows, and then suddenly it attacks Gandalf with a molten sword. Gandalf repels the Balrog and its attack, and the molten sword of the Balrog is broken. Gandalf's sword, Glamdring, has a very interesting backstory. It was used by the High King of the Noldor during the first stage.
High King Turgon. Turgon was the High King of the Noldor. He was the first bearer of Glamdring. The sword was known as the Beater by the orcs, and we can assume it dealt great damage to the orcs. Nice.
And it is quite possible that High King Turgon used it to slay Balrogs. There is no wonder why the Balrog sword is cracked during this challenge.
I'll have to do a video on Turgon. I don't think I've heard of him. His name's probably popped up in lots of videos I've watched, but I'll have to do a video.
Gandalf again exclaims that the Balrog cannot pass. The Balrog set foot upon the bridge. Gandalf then breaks the part of the bridge where the Balrog stand. The Balrog falls and cries in dismay, but it manages to pull Gandalf into the abyss using its thongs. And then...
Can you remember when you first watched it? You just thought, okay, he's done it, right? Like, that's it. Gandalf's the boss. When you watch this movie for the first time, Gandalf was like impenetrable in our eyes, in my opinion. Like, he just, nothing bad could happen to him. Do you know what I mean? And then this happened. Even when this was happening, you thought, oh, they're going to cut the whip. He'll still be fine. Like, you just didn't... I love when movies just chuck something at you that is so unexpected. So unexpected. Those are probably my favourite parts of movies and shows and so on and so forth.
But it manages to pull Gandalf into the abyss using its thongs.
Gandalf.
And then he is gone.
Plummet, you fools!
Gandalf and the Balrog fall together, and Gandalf is burned by the Balrog's fire. Their fall is long, for the span under the bridge of Khazad-dûm is deep and has no measure. They crash into a lake under the mountain, and it is freezing cold. Many might wonder how Gandalf and the Balrog could survive such a fall. This is explained by the fact that they are Maiar, who are immune to the frailties of normal mortals. The fight continued in this dark abyss, but the Balrog no longer had any fire. It was now a creature of slime, for all its fire were quenched in this lake. Stronger than a strangling snake, it clutched Gandalf, and Gandalf hew at it with Glamdring. And the battle continued like this for many dark days, under the earth where time is not counted. Finally, the Balrog fled, and it headed for dark tunnels, some kind of cave system which Nameless Things had made. The Nameless Things are mysterious beings in Tolkien's world, and not much is known about them. Some have theorized that the Watcher in the Water could be such a being. All we know for certain is that they are older than Sauron.
What? I didn't even know about these things. The Nameless Things existed before Arda and time because they are older than Sauron. They could have inhabited the dark dungeons from the beginning of the time. Oh.
Which doesn't give away a whole lot, but this could possibly explain their origin. They might have been in this place from the very beginning of the world, not concerned with anything else. This dreadful battle lasted for 8 days under the earth, until the Balrog led Gandalf to the endless stairs. Up they climbed for many thousand steps.
A winding stairway that led from the lowest point in Khazad-dûm to the peak of Celebdil.
Until they arrived at Durin's Tower, the upmost part. Durin's Tower was carved out of the rock of the mountain Celebdil itself, and there the battle continued. This is known as the Battle of the Peak, and it would become the conclusion of this struggle. Thunder and lightning shook the mountain, and smoke and steam surrounded the two Maiar. Those that looked upon the mountain from afar thought this was a great storm. The battle lasted for 2 days at the peak, until Gandalf finally managed to defeat the Balrog, and it crashed down upon the mountainside.
What a Chad.
Gandalf himself was broken by this strain. The spirit of Gandalf left his physical body. The spirit was then enhanced by Eru Ilúvatar, for the creator could sense that there was no hope left for the peoples of Middle-earth if Gandalf stayed dead. There had originally been sent 5 wizards to Middle-earth from the Blessed Realm to aid the Free Peoples, but at this point of time, only Gandalf pursued this mission.
Tolkien later wrote that it was probable that the Blue Wizards aided in weakening the East. There was also a fan theory that theorizes that it was Radagast who sent the Eagles to the Black Gate. Oh yeah! Yeah, because he loved his nature. I mean, it's a fan theory, right? I like to think that's true, man. Because when we reacted to the Wizards thing, it was kind of just like, yeah, so Radagast just stayed in forests and looked after animals and nature. Which, yeah, you know, Gandalf's out there fighting Sauron and stuff while this guy's, you know, chilling with trees and thinking. But think about it. He's basically David Attenborough, right? Which is, you know, a superhero in his own way.
Rohan would have fallen without Gandalf's aid, and thus Gondor and the rest of Middle-earth would soon have fallen into the hands of Saruman and Sauron. Gandalf had to fight the Balrog to protect the Fellowship and allow the ring free passage. He sacrificed himself. Without Gandalf's stand, the Fellowship would all have been killed by the Balrog, and the quest to Mount Doom would have failed utterly. What happens during this encounter is of great importance to the story. It's a turning point. Tolkien incorporates the idea that the plan of God has failed.
Eru Ilúvatar's plan has failed, and now it is necessary to intervene. Prevent the downfall of Middle-earth. Gandalf is sent back with greater strength and authority than before.
And thus, an intervention is needed to make a plan that had failed right. Gandalf returns as Gandalf the White to make things right. The Lord of the Rings is not just about moral corruption, but also redemption. Aragorn, willing to sacrifice himself before the gates of the Black Gate to aid Frodo in the ultimate task, redeems the Númenóreans, which rebelled against God. Boromir falling to the corruption of the ring and then sacrificing himself to allow Merry and Pippin to escape is also redemption. The same thing is shown in our scenario. Gandalf sacrifices himself to give the Fellowship and the ring free passage. In addition to portray the importance of redemption in his story, it was necessary for Tolkien to separate Gandalf from Frodo and the ring. With Gandalf alive, the quest of the Ringbearer could have proved to be too easy, and the anticipation of the story could have been lessened. After the re-embodiment, Gandalf is found by Gwaihir Windlord and brought to Lorien, where he gets a new robe and most likely he makes a new staff. This allows Gandalf to continue his healing against the works of Sauron and Saruman. The Battle of the Peak sets a new mood for Tolkien's story. The Fellowship is broken and scattered, and Rohan is idle. A new power must be set in motion to fulfill Eru Ilúvatar's plan, and that is Gandalf the White. I hope you now have an insight into what this
Such a good
battle really
video,
offers to
man.
Tolkien's story.
What an
And that
amazing
you can now
video. Well
understand
done.
why Tolkien would bring someone back from the dead. If you enjoy Lord of the Rings lore, I highly suggest you check out this playlist right here.
Go subscribe to him, man. That was so good. That was so good. I love when things we already know are just explained, you know, in more detail, you know. That was so good. Whole video is wrong. They broke into my mines and knocked over my bridge. But somehow I'm the bad guy. Just somehow wrong. Ah, that's good. That's good. Just some Balrog with internet access. Nice, nice. He defeated a boss, got a bunch of experience points, and leveled up. There you go. But you fell, yes, to fire and water. On the lowest dungeon atop the highest peak I battled him, the Balrog of Morgoth, until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside. Damn. Imagine someone climbing to the same peak and coming across the Balrog's remains. Like, what the hell is that? Oh, so good. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments down below what you want to see next.